Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Aqua Outdoors. For this video, we're going to be talking about how to attach a Lowrance Hook 4 fish finder to an older style Hobie. So if you find yourself with an older Hobie that doesn't have the Lowrance Ready technology, this is an option of how you can attach a fish finder. Now, a lot of times online, they'll talk about using through hull transducers. I looked into that and I might catch some flack for this. It's something I decided not to do with this just because thinking about the whole idea of the marine goo and everything, I wanted to make sure it was solid. And frankly, when I attached this, I was a little bit of a hurry, wanting to go to the Cape. What I decided and opted for instead was to go with the Scotty arm for the transducer. And I'll show you guys how that works. All right, so this is the Scotty Mount that I'm using. You can see it has an arm that extends over into the side, into the water, and you can control the depth on how that's going to work. That way, when you just want to use your transducer, you lift it up, you put it down in the water, and then when you're done using it, you can lift it up. In order to mount this, it was a little tricky at first because due to the height, I thought, I could quickly put this in with a gear track, but unfortunately with the cutout here, I wanted to make sure that it was, able to reach over. So I actually had to build a custom poplar block, and you can see this down here. I used some spar varnish, treated it with about 3 coats of that, completely watertight, and I haven't had a problem. So that's some thick poplar. You can pick it up at some of your local lumber supply. On top is the Scotty gear track. This is their smaller size, and I'll put some links down below to help you guys out. This one mounts really easy. Use some stainless steel marine screws. You can attach it right away. Now, the transducer arm itself mounts directly into one of these pedestal mounts, which is what you'll see for other Scotty gear track assembly. So it actually clips right into that. And as mentioned before, when you're not using this, you can just turn it, and this comes up, and you tighten it, it stays in position. Then when you're ready to go into the water, you loosen it, and this drops down. As for attaching this, I did attach it to, I purchased one of the Scotty fish finder mounts that were here. Unfortunately, it didn't match the bottom or the back, which I would have found had I read some more reviews on Amazon and things like that. So instead, what I ended up doing is I used some more of that spar varnish. I used a small piece, in this case, a plywood, but you can use any kind of wood that's floating around. I through-bolted that on here on the bottom, and then that's attached on top, and this can come on and off. Now, the transducer I keep attached at all times, and you can see that that's going back down to the arm, but it comes around here. I have the extra coiled here. Just use some zip ties, and that way if you want to move this to another boat later, it's a lot easier. And now we'll talk about how the power supply is run. Now, from the power, it comes out of the back of your Hook 4. It's going to travel down, and I purchased one of those really cheap. I think they're like $3 or $4 on Amazon or your local kayak supply. One of those Hobie, actually, I think it's called the fish finder, a Hobie electrical or fish finder kit. So you can purchase one of these through Hobie. It's just a way that you can cut a hole. Yes, you do have to cut a pretty big hole in your kayak, just for about a 3/4 of an inch hole. That drops in through, and I was able to wire it through. So let's take a look inside. Now, for attaching the battery, I had to be a little more creative. So let's go inside the hatch. When you go inside, I got some other safety equipment in here. You got some bilge pumps, stuff like that. But in here, this cheap Rubbermaid container, this is all you need if you're going to attach your battery compartment. Relatively waterproof, and it's a great way to keep it stored. So if we open this up, you can see I've got a West Marine battery here. Purchased this after I purchased my fish finder. And this is all attached, and again, a nice waterproof casing. What I decided to do is inside this Tupperware container or Rubbermaid container, there's just 2 pieces of small oak wood on the bottom. You can finish those with spar varnish if you want to, so they don't get tired. These are getting a little punky, so I might do that myself. But this just drops right in. There's a lot of space around it. And the reason for the wood in the bottom is that makes it so that if the water does get in, it sits below the battery. It gives you about 1 inch to play with. Then I just took some of this pipe insulation, some of this foam, think of like a smaller swimming noodle, cut it in half, and I use this to sandwich in around the battery so it doesn't slide around. All right, you put your lid on and you're good to go. The wire exits through the side of the Rubbermaid container and works its way on up into that hole that we cut earlier. All right, so the Rubbermaid container, that's our new battery compartment, that's actually held in place so it doesn't jostle around by the Hobie mast that's in the background. And just a quick zip tie, you cut 2 holes in the top part of the Tupperware, you run that zip tie around, it's not going anywhere. If you store your Hobie outside, just make sure to take all this wiring out at the end of the season. Don't want to track some of those little critters, put some mothballs in there, you're ready to go. So this entire fish finder mounting assembly didn't take very long. The longest thing was actually cutting that custom piece of wood, which is done on a jigsaw, and just waiting for that varnish to dry. But other than that, with these gear tracks, especially since I'm trailering this, And for some of those longer trips, this makes a lot of everything pops off and you're ready to go. It's worked out really well for me. So hope this video was helpful. Drop any comments or questions you have below. If you want to give this a try, if you have any questions for me, I'd be willing to help you guys out with that. And yeah, if you have an older Hobie, you can still put some cool stuff on it. Thank you so much for watching Aqua Base Outdoors.